Hello, everybody. Welcome to an emergency session of the Rank Student Alliance Congress. It is July 30th of 2021. This is our lame duck Congress with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 members that are present out of our remaining 8-person Congress, with 3 that have left and myself that has renounced that position, assuming the presidency. So until the next election, this is still the active Congress, so we have stuff to do. And we're glad to be joined by Ms. Cashman, the BUSD Director of Student Services, to answer some questions that Congress might have, to give them that opportunity. And I'm going to gavel in the session, then give the floor briefly to my Vice President, who would like to say a few words to start us off. I'm calling this session to order. That was a very unceremonious gaveling. But now that we've gotten that out of the way, the chair will actually, let's take attendance first. Is Representative Timani present?
Here.
Okay. Representative Singh?
Present.
Representative Amoyan? Representative Amoyan is not present. Representative Kroll?
Here.
Representative Singh? I said Singh. Representative Zarian?
Present.
Representative Sarian?
Present.
Representative Pekanian? Representative Pekanian is not present. And Representative Angel? She's also not present. Representative Sarian, do we know where Representative Angel is?
Would you like me to contact her?
Yes, if you can do that, that'd be great.
Okay,
So,
will do.
the chair will briefly yield for the time of 2 minutes to the Vice President who would like to make some remarks. The chair recognizes you, Vice President Bamby, for that duration of time.
Good evening, students of Burbank. I am pleased to welcome you to our first emergency session under the Dionysian Bamby administration. Today we have a special guest from BUSD, Mrs. Stacy Cashman, Director of Student Services, that will be answering some of our questions from our students. Thank you so much for coming, Mrs. Cashman. As we all probably know, we're ready to transition back into in-person schooling. After 1.5 years of distance learning, this transition seems quite daunting. All of us have many questions in our mind, and today is the day to get many of them answered. So without further ado, let's proceed. Yield my time back to the chair.
Thank you, Vice President Bamby. At this time, I know there's a little bit of housekeeping we have to do. I talked to Representative Kroll about this with a couple things that he wants to introduce. So we'll start with that. I will open the floor first to a statement from any representative on anything, on another topic or otherwise. This isn't to introduce a bill yet. It's just providing the opportunity for people. Okay, seeing as nobody wants to speak on anything, Representative Kroll. Sorry, the chair recognizes Representative Kroll for 1 minute.
Mr. President, wouldn't it make more sense to do the Q&A period first and then to move on to other business, as to not take up too much of?
I want to get this one out of the way, so we'll do this first. It's a quick thing, but because your bill, I think, won't take up too much time. So, is there anybody who would like to introduce any piece of legislation at this time?
Yes.
Representative Kroll, you are recognized to introduce your bill.
All right. My bill today is House Bill 11, which is the Gender Inclusivity Bill. The abstract is a bill to make the operations of the BSA more gender inclusive. An act of the Burbank Student Alliance is enacted. Should I share my screen and show this?
That's all right. You can read aloud, Representative.
Okay. An act of the Burbank Student Alliance is enacted. Section 1, resolved. All members of the Office of the President, Congress, public and private divisions of the BSA are asked to put their pronouns in their Discord and Zoom names while working on BSA business, if they are comfortable doing so. If an individual is not comfortable with publicization of their pronouns, they're permitted to abstain from doing so. However, the BSA encourages their members to include their pronouns wherever possible. Section 2, resolved. All members of the Office of President, Congress, public and private divisions of the BSA are asked to wear a pronoun indicator of some sort while attending an in-person meetings concerning BSA business. If an individual is not comfortable wearing a physical pronoun indicator, they're permitted to abstain from doing so. Section 3, resolved. All members of the BSA Discord are asked to put their pronouns in their Discord names if they are comfortable with doing so. I yield my time back to the chair.
Thank you, Representative Kroll. I'm going to take that time and thank you, Representative Kroll. I'm going to take that time and very briefly, I want to note that this bill is written by Representative Kroll in a way that is by no way forces anybody to do anything. It only sets that precedent for future administrations to do the same thing in Discord servers or in person or anything else. So if anybody feels that it is too forceful in any manner, the wording of the bill directly contradicts that. So at this time, if any other representative wants to speak on this, then we'll quickly vote and move on because I know Ms. Cashman has a lot she needs to do. So is there any representative who would like the floor for a couple minutes? Seeing as there's no representative who was indicated as such. Representative Singh is recognized for the next 2 minutes.
I just wanted to say that I believe that Representative Singh of representing the, I guess, previous sophomores. But essentially, I just wanted to say that I think that this is a good idea in that it'll help support or show support for our trans youth or just any youth that uses alternate pronouns. And like it was said, that it's not forced. So, good idea all around, and it's just a good step into inclusivity. I yield my time to the chair.
Thank you, Representative Singh. So it's simple enough. I will now open the floor one more time for any comment. Seeing as no representative has indicated as such, I will now put House Bill, what's the number, Representative Kroll?
House Bill 11.
House Bill 011 to a vote. We'll use a roll call system. Representative Timeni.
Aye.
Representative Timeni votes aye. Representative Singh.
Aye.
Representative Singh votes aye. Representative Sarian.
Aye.
Representative Sarian votes aye. Representative Zarian.
Aye.
Representative Zarian votes aye. And Representative Kroll, the author himself.
Aye.
Representative Kroll votes aye. With a quorum, HB 011 has passed. And so with that, we're going to move on very briefly to, actually not briefly, this is the purpose of the amendment session, to why we're all here. Ms. Cashman has joined us to answer some questions that the Congress has, and I understand some members of Congress have also brought pieces of legislation they'd like to introduce. I'm not going to, the executive isn't going to present too many questions here just because we want to set the precedent of the Congress becoming far more active on its own. We've had a problem with that in the past, and so you guys, I'm giving you guys this opportunity this time. Any issues you want to take, any stances, here's your chance to take the BSA and move it on your own. So with that, I will open the floor to a statement by Ms. Cashman if she wishes to do so, if she has something to say before we start, or I can just go to the questions if she chooses so.
Oh, just good evening. Thanks for having me. We've been doing a lot of work this summer to make our reopening as smooth as possible. We're really excited to have students back on campus. Most of our work is directed by public health and the CDC. So there may be things that you guys have questions about or would like more input on. But just forgive me if I have to say that's determined by public health, because I just want everybody to know up front that we don't really have a voice in some of this stuff. I mean, Dr. Hill meets with the state superintendent and the public health all the time, as do I, but at the end of the day, they're the experts. They're the medical experts, and they kind of guide our reopening and what it looks like. So, but I certainly am interested in your questions. The other thing is we are sending out communications, more comprehensive communications next week. We've had a few people emailing and calling and asking what's going on. The superintendent and I spent a lot of time the last couple weeks talking about the timing of our communications. And what's been going on behind the scenes is we are anticipating some shifts this week from public health. So we didn't want to keep sending out information and changing it every week and making it more confusing. So there will be quite a bit of information going out this week and the next week leading up to school opening. Okay?
Right. Okay, yeah, so just to reiterate, if there's a question you guys have on Master how the school will be conducting themselves, Ms. Cashman will do her best to answer that, but she can't, that's not something that's under local jurisdiction. So she wouldn't be able to change it, although she can give you that information if that's something that's available by LA County Department of Health. So with that, I'm going to open the floor to any questions. First, then we'll move on to any suggestions any representative might have. So I'll open the floor to any comment, any question by members of our Congress. Representative Kroll, you're recognized for a question.
Is there a contingency plan if case numbers go up and we're forced into another shutdown? If so, has that been made available to the public yet?
Yeah, we've been planning since this thing started, and obviously we've had to change plans many times throughout this pandemic, as have you, more importantly. The good news is I think we have had over a year experience with online learning, so that if there was a school closure that was required by public health, we would be able to flip to online learning pretty easily. Nobody wants that to happen. In fact, most of our conversations with public health are that everybody sort of recognizes that kids need to be in school in person. So that's most likely the plan. If we have to quarantine a classroom because of cases or exposure, that would also be the plan. But I know instruction's working out more details on that.
All right. Representative Kroll, do you have a follow-up, or will you end that topic there?
I yield my time to the chair.
Thank you. Representative Singh, you are recognized for a question to Ms. Cashman.
All right, so I think like the number one thing that people want to get out of the way is like, how are you going to, because vaccines aren't mandated, but we heard news that the masks were going to be mandated. How do you plan on doing that? And whether that be in like the halls or like in the classroom, will it be everywhere? Or except during like lunch times? We're just a little confused on that. So if you could provide clarification, that'd be great.
So right now, what I can tell you is that per public health, masks are required at all indoor venues and classrooms. So universal masking for staff and students will apply indoors, including staff. The only exception is if somebody is working alone in an office, or if a student has a medical reason why they cannot wear a mask, and we have an alternative plan to help with that. As far as outdoors, right now, that's not required by public health. We're going to encourage students to, just keep like your distance as much as possible. Obviously there's some breakthrough cases happening right now. And so if that changes, we'll let you know, and it could. I mean, things change every week with public health, depending on what's happening with the virus. But right now, it's just masks indoors and in classrooms. I would assume it would be hallways as well if they're enclosed. So if that hallway's outside, you're okay.
Could I follow up on that and ask then if we're going to mandate social distancing at all?
So right now, physical distancing is not required by public health. It is recommended. Obviously, we want to implement as many measures, they call it a layering effect, as many measures as possible. But they also recognize that if we're opening schools for in-person instruction for all students, that, we can't have students in little bubbles maintaining 6 feet or 3 feet distance at all time. It just doesn't work. So it's going to be something we encourage students to do. But at the same time, we recognize that it's a crowded campus and kids are going to be in hallways, et cetera. The classrooms, the typical classroom, the desks, by the time students sit in those desks, are typically 3 feet apart anyway. So that's not too much of a hardship. Okay.
All right.
I yield my time to the chair. Thank you.
Representative Singh. Are there any other representatives who seek recognition? Representative Sarian, you're recognized for a duration of 1 minute for your question.
Thank you. I just had a question about the testing. So are we supposed to be tested regularly? And if so, will this happen at school, and how often will that happen?
So that is one area that we have not decided yet. Testing is typically a snapshot, right, within a couple days window. So it's not like it guarantees that, you're not positive and then a day later you tested and it could be positive, right? So the testing is more of a precaution. It's not a guarantee. But we haven't decided about, we might be testing athletes again. We might be offering testing for unvaccinated students or employees. We haven't really gotten that far. We're still working on that. A lot of this information from public health literally came out this week. And so we have a lot of meetings set up for next week to sort of iron it out, make some decisions, and then roll that out to you guys. Okay. But it's just changing all the time. I'm sorry I can't give you clear answers, but 1 week it's testing's required for athletes, the next week it's not. It goes back and forth quite a bit.
Awesome. Thank you. And following up about athletic programs and arts programs. So during the hybrid model, I'm in orchestra, so I kind of understand how this was. We were required to perform outdoors, social distancing and wearing masks and all the necessary equipment. Will we still have to do that, or are we allowed to explore other ways to navigate that?
I would say right now, because of the universal masking indoors, that if the orchestra's indoors, they're going to need to wear a mask. But they could practice and perform indoors. Earlier with the hybrid model, it was difficult because the physical distancing was still such a big deal at that time. So, we're still working on those things, but I would imagine orchestra will be able to perform if they're wearing masks inside. Band is another story because it's a wind instrument and aerosol and droplets, so they may still be practicing outside.
Yeah.
Got it. Thank you, and I yield my time to the chair.
Yeah, thank you. Chair will take your time. I'm going to make a quick comment on that because I was in band, and when we wanted to practice, they found this pretty ingenious way to work around it. They put a mask over the horn if it's an instrument with a bell, for example. Percussion, there's obviously no problem there. But then you've got, for woodwind, for example, they'll have you take a mask that has a little flap on it. It's inconvenient, but it works as far as masking goes, as efficiently as breathing in and out. That being said, the entire concept of a wind instrument relies on the air moving through, so it's a little bit contradictory.
Yeah, none of this is ideal. I get it.
I want to bring up a quick question, Ms. Cashman. So we talked about athletes being tested. Is this testing something we're talking about mandates for you to go out on your own time and to get tested elsewhere, or school sanctioned testing?
No, when we did testing this summer for quite a while, and we get money from the state to provide that, and we had a company that would show up at Burbank High, and do the testing for the athletes prior to games and practices and things like that. So it was all handled by the district. It was very efficient. I heard, they got everybody done very quickly. Test results came back the same day. So it was pretty smooth.
All right. And as far as health guidelines go, is the district allowed to, under its own local jurisdiction, expand the testing programs for its students beyond what LA County Health recommends, or is that exclusively remaining to their suggestions?
No, I mean, we have, because a lot of the, a lot of what's in the public health orders now are recommendations. We have the ability, there's a little wiggle room with some of this stuff and how often, whether we do surveillance testing, that kind of thing. Like I said, we've had a lot of discussions about it, but the surveillance testing is just a really short window. And so we're not sure that that's the road we're going to take yet. What we are going to definitely do is encourage students to get vaccinated. We can't compel them, but I can tell you that the cases that we have of people getting COVID, we know of a couple breakthrough cases where people were vaccinated and still got it, and they had cold symptoms, mild symptoms, but they didn't end up hospitalized or with severe symptoms. So, there's a lot of things out there in the media about the vaccine and it's not working because people are still getting COVID, but the people who are getting it are not necessarily ending up in the hospital. And most of the hospitalizations right now, 97% are unvaccinated people. So.
Right. I will yield back to myself, which is awkward, but that's Robert's Rules of Order. So I will open the floor to another question from Representative. Nana seems to have okay. We'll take to Nana because of recency, then Finn will go to you. So the Vice President recognized for a duration of 1 minute for her question.
Thank you. I had a question. So in hybrid, teachers were asked to clean the desks with just like Lysol and everything. Would that still be implemented with teachers having to clean the desks, since now we're going to be evolving with more students?
Yeah, I mean, when we implemented hybrid, it wasn't just teachers. We asked classified, we purchased these aerosol backpacks for facilities to use that spray as a disinfectant. So it was kind of a all hands on deck kind of job, right? Maybe even some of the students helped out if they were interested. What the public health has, like, they've arrived at a place where they say that surface contact and contamination is less of an issue, much less of an issue than person to person spread. And so they're not overly concerned with cleaning every little thing every second of the day. They said the typical routine cleaning is, fine, but we also do have these high-speed backpacks that spray the disinfectant that we'll continue to use. So that some of the silver lining in all this, even though it's been a dreadful couple years, is that we have picked up some practices and some tools that help for everything. So disinfecting and cleaning and washing your hands regularly and not touching your face and covering your cough, that's good for any kind of infection spread, like reducing spread of infection, whether it's the flu or cold or COVID, right? So I think the more you can encourage your student body to be conscious of those measures and wash their hands regularly, maybe not hugging on each other all the time like you might have used to. Some of those, common sense measures are helpful. Okay.
Right.
I hope that answered your question.
Yes, it did. Thank you. I yield my time back to the chair.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Bambi. And I'm just now realizing that I've been yielding everybody a minute and then forgetting that I've done that. So I'm going to start giving you guys indefinite time. So, Representative Kroll, I noticed that you had a hand up previously.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, the chair recognizes you for an indefinite period of time.
Awesome. Will face masks be made available to students if a student shows up to school without one?
Yes, absolutely. We've delivered care packages to all the sites, thousands and thousands of masks and sanitizer and wipes and all that good stuff. So most students, I think by now, probably have their own selection of stylish masks that they like to wear. But, there's always that time where you drop it or you forget it or whatever. So the teachers, the staff, everyone will have stocks of masks made available for students if they need it, and staff.
Awesome, thank you. I yield my time back to the chair.
Right, yeah, thank you. And I'd like to make a quick comment here as well. We know in the past when teachers needed supplies, especially sanitizers, albeit in different circumstances, there were a lot of shortages sometimes and they'd have to pay from out of pocket. It's good to see that now there are funds directed for those exclusively because obviously we're in a pandemic as opposed to back then. But on the very real possibility that these supplies should run out, which from how you said it sounded like a one-time purchase, are there any funds? No.
No,
Okay.
we have COVID money that's been given to the school district by the state to cover the cost of PPE and testing and just support, learning loss support for students who are struggling, all kinds of different areas. So we just had a meeting last week about PPE. We reviewed, that's personal protective equipment, masks, etc. And we reviewed all of the amounts for the district and for schools. And we have somebody at the district office, Ms. Claudia Simonkis, who's amazing. She has this incredible spreadsheet. And we are going to have the hard part is we don't know how quickly schools will go through the masks since a lot of kids have their own. So she's going to be having the staffs, the school sites report back after a few weeks to inventory what we've been through. That way we can gauge it and make sure we don't run short, that we always have it in
Right.
supply.
Thank you. And by any chance, is the district allowed to release these figures as to how much the payment from the state is, out of curiosity?
I can't tell you right now because it's dedicated to different buckets. So there's some for instruction, some for PPE. It's in the millions. It's a lot.
Okay.
But I don't have the figure. But I'm sure Dr. Hill could tell you if you wanted.
All right, thank you. We'll look into that. I'll yield back to myself and open the floor to any representative or Nana who has a question. Representative Zarian has indicated as such you have been recognized for your question for an indefinite period of time.
Hi, I'm Representative Nazarian. So my question is, will the desks in classrooms be socially distanced?
So as I said before, the physical distance isn't a requirement of the public health right now. So, we'll encourage kids to keep some distance, when possible. And most desks, if you kind of measure between a student and a student, if they're both sitting at a desk, it's almost 3 feet anyway. So that barrier of the desktop kind of gives you that distance naturally. It's not a requirement, it's a recommendation.
Okay.
And, a lot of this, I think, is part of it's going to be student responsibility too, personal responsibility. And that's where this group can really help us, is reminding students to wear their masks, wash their hands, stay physically distant when they can, practice all those infection fighting measures, do a self-check in the morning, making sure that they're not feeling sick, they don't have a fever, that kind of stuff, because if they do, they're really going to need to stay home. In the old days, you have a little sniffle and maybe you weren't feeling great and you'd go to school. This year, it's going to be really critical that if somebody's sick, that they stay home and make sure that they're not bringing something to school and spreading it.
All right, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I yield my time to the chair.
Thank you. How will meals be provided in the cafeteria to make sure that all students purchasing meals from the cafeteria will stay safe along with staff?
That one I am not sure. Our food services director retired this year, and I personally have not had a chance to connect with food services. We'll be doing that next week in cabinet and ironing out that. I'm sure they've been working on a plan. If I was going to guess, it might be some kind of grab and go lunch for a while, but I'm not sure.
All right, thank you. I yield my time back to sure that all students.
Thank you. I'm not sure if this question was asked before, but will temperature checks will be enforced or like in hybrid model or no?
That we're still working on. We haven't decided. Many school districts are not doing temperature checks anymore because of the sheer volume of students. And it's kind of hit or miss. Those thermometers, you take them like 20 different times and it gives you many different temperatures. So it's more about trying to encourage people to do a self-check before they come to school. But that hasn't been decided yet. Okay.
Thank you. I yield my time back to the chair.
I didn't catch the question. Sorry. Yeah, I mean, I think that the good news is teachers have now had, unfortunately, it wasn't something anybody wished, but they had a year of online learning, and I think most teachers have had a pretty steep curve with technology, and that they feel much more accustomed to Google Classroom and assigning things online. I hope that we don't have to do that. I think the good news is that people who are being vaccinated are not ending up in the hospital, and that they are, typically having flu-like symptoms or cold-like symptoms. We live with the flu shot every year and the flu. I'm not comparing COVID to the flu, but I think that if we can get vaccinated and get vaccines into most of our students, there's a good possibility that we won't have to close. So I think everybody is prepared at this point for that. If it did happen, I think teachers are much more comfortable with technology. We've now done it a couple times, so we're a little bit used to this. But we all hope and pray that that doesn't happen.
Right, and however much prepared we are, it's important to know that we're not out of the woods yet, and for people to know
Yeah.
that. Thank you for the answer.
Absolutely.
I will yield the floor to myself and give Congress another opportunity for questions they might have. I'd like to, Representative Kroll, I'll give you the floor for a couple minutes.
Awesome. Are all BUSD teachers required to be vaccinated by the time school starts?
So we're the district and most local government entities, you're not allowed to, haven't been able to mandate vaccines because it was an emergency authorized vaccine, right? So that's not something we were able to do. And we have employees with medical conditions or other exceptional circumstances that would keep them from being vaccinated. So the good news is I would say about 90% of our staff, the USD staff, all staff have been vaccinated because we provided those clinics with the fire department in the spring. So we have an exceptionally high rate of vaccinated employees compared to other districts and areas. So I think that's a real positive. And so very few people who are not vaccinated, most of them have other conditions going on that prohibits them from getting the vaccine at this time.
Thank you. I yield my
But
time.
yeah,
back.
we can't mandate it right now.
Understood. I yield my time back to the chair.
Thank you, Representative Kroll. So I'd like to shift everyone's attention now to something that I know Ms. Cashman, myself, and Nana, and also Ever spoke about a while ago, but I want to give Congress an opportunity to talk about or make suggestions in regards to. So, coming back, there's going to be a massive strain on the mental health resources students are going to need. We expected that. Ms. Cashman knows that, and I think everybody in this Congress can agree on that as well. It's an item of pretty solid consensus at this point. And so if the Congress has any questions in that domain, specifically about what's being done or what they think could be done better, I would urge you guys to make use of that opportunity right now. So I'll open the floor one more time to any members of Congress who have a question in that field or otherwise. Representative Kroll, you're recognized for a 3-minute duration.
I'm curious as to whether there's been any professional development for teachers on how to how do I put this? So a lot of I know personally when I went back to hybrid I was really overwhelmed, and I know that some of my teachers really understood how to help me with through that, and I know some of my teachers didn't. And I was wondering for the teachers that didn't, has there been resources provided so that they know how to help us, because we've been through a lot, and coming back personally was tricky, and I would love to know that I have the support of my teachers in the district.
Yeah, absolutely. We've been working with our County Office of Education, and actually Arno and Nana were part of this through our PBIS curriculum. We're focusing on trauma-informed practices this year. And trauma-informed practices, you probably are familiar, but it teaches the adults and the kids the physiological, psychological, mental health ramifications of going through trauma. And not just pandemic, but we have families and students, and my office tends to work with the families that are in the most crisis. So they've had other traumas, whether it's abuse, drug addiction, all kinds of, really difficult things. Could be bullying, could be just isolation. Everybody has trauma, but now we've got this layer of the pandemic on top of it. So I think we all need to sort of work together to support one another coming back. And hopefully this trauma-informed practices helps inform the staff and students. We have a parent night set up for August before school starts. We'll be sending out a flyer next week. And that's to help parents understand the transition back to school, as well as students will be, invited to come. We have one for elementary and one for secondary. I know the principals have really been pushing, sort of finding time within the day to make space for students to express what they've been through and how we can support them. And it's going to be ongoing. I mean, just keep in mind too that the adults have gone through trauma as well. And adults should be better at handling it because we're adults, but it's hard. It's been a hard year for all of us. And so I think the adults are going to need your support too, They're going to need support from their students because everybody's pretty, we've got COVID fatigue. We've had people isolated. We've had people who've lost loved ones or, jobs. Like there's just so much going on the last year and a half. I think we all just need to be sort of kinder and gentler with each other and give each other a little space and not be quick to judge or make assumptions, and just realize that everybody is going to be struggling with this transition, right? So I'm really glad you brought that up because I think that's critical. And I think our staff needs a lot of support too. I mean, I spent a lot of time during the pandemic talking to teachers, talking to staff members who are struggling and trying to help them too. So I know the care centers will be in full swing. I know that FSA will be continuing to provide school-based counseling. And I know that the principals have been sort of planning all summer with their teams to make sure that whether it's trauma informed or you want to call it by a different name, because it, comes in many different shapes and sizes, some of that mental health and emotional support is going to be built into the school day and the curriculum. Okay. The other thing I would, remind all of the students is that, teachers and staff and principals and all of us, we're just kind of human beings too. And so there are days I remember as a teacher where, I was exhausted because my baby was up crying all night and I didn't sleep. And so maybe I wasn't my best self the next day. And so making sure that you understand that adults aren't always on their best either, and giving them a little space and understanding, but also knowing you can reach out to other staff. If you go to an adult and you don't get the reaction you need or the support you need, you can always go to a counselor, an intervention specialist, an assistant principal, call me, email me, I'm available. We just want to make sure people get the support they need.
Thank you. I definitely agree, and I love some of the things that are going to be in the works. I also know that the Student Mental Health Board will be also working to be an advocate for the students. So I'm excited to see how this year goes, and I'm hoping it won't be as horrendous as the last one was. Thank you. I yield my time to the chair.
Thank you, Representative Kroll. And I'd like to move to the topic of signage and directioning around the campus. We talked about this with Nana and Ever, and it was mentioned that now we have half of the entire student body at both high schools who is vaguely, if at all, familiar with the campus. And it's not as big an issue, but it's something that I think will relieve a little bit of the stress beginning of the year. And so I'd like to know what's the progress the district has worked on, and what in specific are you guys doing in terms of signage for the campus and having teachers do what they can to direct students around the school.
That is, honestly, that's more of an individual site question, because all the layouts at our schools are different. The makeup of the student body, how many kids is different. So that's really something that the sites have been working on. I was more involved in that when we had required mandated signage from public health that had to be all over the campus. And now I think it sounds like what you're talking about is more of like orientation to the campus and finding your way and being comfortable. So I think that's something that I would reach out to Dr. Crowther and see what or Brian James, see what their plan is for that. I think a lot of schools, I mean, I know when I was at the middle school, we would give tours. I think the 6th graders had like 4 tours by the end of the first week. They were probably sick of the tours. And my guess is that they're going to be doing the same thing for students who are now in 6th grade or 9th grade who've never been on campus, 10th graders who never got on campus. So, but I would reach out to your site staff for that.
All right, thank you.
Mhm.
I'm going to open the floor a few more times to questions. Representative Tamani, do you have a question? Or Singh, or Kroll, or Nazarian, or Banana? No? Okay, then I'd like to, I got a couple questions on this on Instagram from students following us, and one thing that everybody was very concerned about, and I know we talked about this briefly, but I want to see if we can get in more certain terms, because I want to be able to go back and put this out publicly so people know. Just for certainty's sake, what will lunch mandates look like? For example, when it comes to masking during lunch, whether it's outside or indoors, or social distancing during lunch, what are going to be the guidelines, or at the very least, what the school plans to mandate, if anything at all?
That I'm going to have to get back to you. That's part of our meeting on Monday to kind of iron out some of those details. So, but, reach out to me next week, and as soon as I get an answer, I can let you know.
Yeah, thank you. Please do. So I'll open it to the rest of the Congress one more time. And, Finn just lit up with joy. So I will, I'm going to recognize Representative Kroll for a couple minutes for a question here.
Okay. All right. Will the schedule for next year, just to explicitly ask, is it going to be a regular 8 to 3 schedule with and then 7 to 3 if you have 0 period and the AE period for most high schools?
Mm-hmm.
Going back to what used to be our normal.
Yes.
Awesome.
Some schools have added some advisory period time as part of their SEL social emotional learning component. I'm not sure if Burbank High has done that, or they're going to address it in a core class. But yeah, I mean that we're definitely returning to the typical schedule, 8 to 3, 6 classes, etc. There is a bill that came out that offers independent study for students or parents that are concerned about their health. And so we've been working on that. We've been taking requests, and so our independent study program for 7th through 12th will be ILA. So that means the students take 1 class for 5 weeks, kind of intensive online class.
Awesome. I yield my time to the chair.
Thank you, Representative Kroll. Are there any other questions members of Congress wish to present? Right, so I'm going to talk about one more thing, then we'll see if we can close out with a few more questions. So I'm not sure if this was brought up as exclusively earlier by the members of Congress, but when it comes to the enforcement of these things, I looked at the containment policy and the steps that were listed. Ultimately, when a student says they're not going to put on a mask, what's the step we're going to take? So I've seen notifying parents, but if somebody says they're not going to put on a mask and they remain adamant to that, what is the district? What are the schools instructed to do from that point?
So last year, before hybrid, we came up with we created a BUSD face mask policy, progressive discipline policy. And like any behaviors where a student makes a poor choice or is being defiant about a rule or something, you try to talk to them first and figure out what's going on. Why do they not want to wear the mask? And if it's, then if it progresses, then they call parent, and it'll pretty quickly move, though, to a student being told they can enroll in ILA if they're not going to wear a mask, because we don't have the luxury of allowing students or staff to defy a public health mandate. It's public health, right? So kids don't get to say, I'm not going to wear a mask. If a student feels that they can't wear a mask throughout the day for their own health, then they'll need to enroll in ILA.
Yeah, and for an immediate basis, when we don't have the luxury of this long-term discipline of what's going to happen next with ILA and their future curriculum, on a certain day, I think it'd be wise for the schools to have designated a certain location just to effectively quarantine anybody who doesn't want to put a mask on, for their own safety more than anything. Because it's them that they're putting at risk as well.
Yeah, that's in the policy. I think it's on our website, where if a student continues to not wear a mask after they've been warned or had a meeting or whatever, then they'll be escorted to the front office and called and picked up.
Okay. All right.
So we're not going to jeopardize other people's health because somebody doesn't believe in the current policy and public health guidelines.
Yeah,
and it's not our decision to decide whether to believe that or not. They're saying this is an order, so everybody has to follow it.
Yeah, and that's
kind of like the military.
That's important to make clear. So
Yeah.
I'll open the floor to Congress one more time, and then I have one more quick housekeeping thing to do, because this is going to have to do with the next Congress and our sessions then, and our operations. So forgive us then; it'll take a couple more minutes. But if any Congress member has any questions or any suggestions that they want to bring up, now's the time. No, not Kroll, not Bambi, not Nazarian, not Adam, and not Singh. All right. And so with that, I will make a motion myself to introduce HB 012, the Congressional Involvement Act. Abstract: a measure to ensure the BSA Student Congress remains active in the process of developing and pursuing the implementation of policy on their constituents' behalf. Whereas it is the duty of the Congress to both identify and develop solutions for issues that plague students in BUSD, and whereas it is the duty of the Office of the President of the BSA to maintain the Congress's consistent involvement in BSA affairs, be it enacted by the Burbank Student Alliance Student Congress, that Section 1, the BSA shall host congressional committees targeted towards specific categories of potential issues in the BSD. So I'm going to sum this up in simpler words. You guys know how the House of Representatives works, how Senates work. It's effectively the same structure. We have committees, except a lot less bureaucratic, with, you can imagine, 12 people, designated to certain topics. So whether it be mental health, or something else, or another category, or sports, athletics, visual performing arts, those categories are placed in their own domain in committees that are formed by you guys. So say Kai wants to go on the mental health committee. They'd work with either other groups or to look into it themselves, to find problems, to develop this legislation in committee and present it here. So it's already gone through this massive filter process of debate, discussion, and intensive research. So by the time it gets here, you guys have made a decision to present this that is on your own behalf. And, happy anniversary, Ms. Cashman. Feel free to leave. It's alright, we don't want to keep you up here. But,
Yeah, I better get going. We have dinner reservations,
Yeah,
but it was
right.
great talking to you guys.
and
Okay,
thank you
take
for joining
care.
us. I'm sure a lot of Congress can have a couple follow-ups, but thank you.
Okay, bye-bye.
Well, that's a nice way to end things.
Are we still on the live?
We're still live. No, yeah, this session's gonna keep streaming till it's done. So
Awesome.
you're not on the hook yet, Finn.
What?
Hey,
Okay.
Hey, my first time. Representative Kroll, you're out of order. The gentleman will seize. Gentlemen, I'll have my chamber in order, Finn. Adam, are you there? For the love of God, give me some point of inquiry. Representative
I
Kroll,
am.
Are you present?
I am, in fact, present.
I would like to make a point of arguable information. I had a heart attack the second I saw Representative Tamani join, and that was his profile picture, because I knew he couldn't turn his camera on because it was on his phone. And so when he's on mobile, he's going to have no choice but to have that profile picture there, and I don't know why I didn't realize earlier that that's what it's going to be showing, which was fine. I'm sure it was a little bit questionable for our guest, but that's all right. We're here to... It's good to put who we interrogate in an unfamiliar setting. I'm kidding. Anyways, I'm gonna go through with this bill. Actually, I'm gonna put it up on my desktop because my mistake of accidentally streaming my desktop instead of a specific application also grants me the advantage of blowing that up on the stream. So everybody, take a look here. This is the Congressional Involvement Act, which is mislabeled, and its goal is to get you guys, the Congress, not individually but as a concept, to start. Kai as a guest, to start working more diligently and actively, proactively, instead of just voting on issues that are presented to you guys. I know in the past Congress, Andre did things very differently. He'd bring up legislation, he'd give it to you guys, or the first student Congress as well, and he's like, hey guys, here's what I think, vote yes or no, and then the Congress would talk about that. And there would hardly be a lot of discourse. I know this time, Finn, you being my opponent in the last election, we're going to have a lot of what was it? You're going to be a congressional pain in the ass, which is what we like here in Democracy Inc. But the point is, in committees, although it's bureaucratic on a larger scale, when we're working here, it's going to be a lot more efficient to get things done. When we have a small pod of 4 or 5 people working on a specific task, specific bill, arguing, and ultimately representing their constituents that much better than if we just sit here for an hour a week and say yes, no, aye, nay, and just wait for the president to do stuff as well. And don't get me wrong, I have a lot of legislation to introduce as well. We have big plans for second semester, but I want you guys to get active because ultimately you are who represents our students. You've got on average maybe 50 or 70 or so constituents each, and that's a lot smaller, a lot more accurate than I have. I have 200, 300 so people who voted in the presidential elections, and you guys are going to get that much more democratic a result if you do your part, and committees are a part of that. So, I've read through the piece of legislation. If there's anybody who would like to speak on it, I will give you guys that opportunity. So I will open the floor to members of Congress. A congressional pain. Okay, Finn. Yeah, I noticed that. It's on the stream, by the way, so now it's out there. It's official.
Noted. I just thought I didn't put the curse word in.
All right.
Okay.
You're recognized for 2 minutes.
Thank you. Can I see a copy of the
Yes. Before we vote on this, I'm gonna put this out for all your viewing. It's gonna be out on the Discord. So if anybody wants to go look at it, who's in the chat as well. Yeah, I see you guys, by the way. You guys are insane. You can do that. So. It should be up in announcements as of now. Actually, I'll stick that in ballot. All right, it's up. Go take a look. And I'm gonna actually motion to caucus. I'll request a member of the Congress motion to caucus for the next, I don't know, 5 or so minutes, so you guys can talk about this freely. We can stay in here. We're not gonna do breakout rooms unless you guys want to. But there's only a couple of us here, so we can talk about this freely if you guys have anything you want to change, any wording, and then we can debate that here. So, I'm going to ask a representative to motion to caucus if they want to. So, you know that discussion we had about Congress taking initiative? This is that.
Blah, blah, blah. I'll motion to caucus.
Thank you, Representative Tamani. There is a motion to caucus. Is there a second?
Second.
There was a second, and since Representative Tamani did not motion with unanimous consent, we're going to go through the voting process. So, Representative Kroll, how do you vote?
Aye.
Tamani.
Aye.
Singh.
Aye.
Nazarian.
Aye.
Nana, you don't get a vote. I'm sorry. And it passes. Everybody. We are now in caucusing, so I think we can't basically walk around and do what you would in a physical setting, but we can't do that. So right now, anybody have any reservations with this, or if you want to take some time to read the bill, you can do that, and then we'll talk about it. Unmute. I don't want to. We've suspended the
Put this
rules.
in your words, Mr. President. This is essentially so that Congress has more power to take more initiative, and so that when bills get presented to Congress, it's more that Congress has written them and Congress has met with other individual teams to then bring them to you. Is that the overall point?
So it's not giving Congress more power. You guys have just the same legal authority as you would otherwise. It just gives you guys a settled domain that sets the precedent. You guys working in these pods on specific tasks, as opposed to sitting there and voting yes or no. If on the very real possibility that we have a representative that's not going to take the initiative to do that on their own, it doesn't give you any more power. It depends on the way you look at it. If anything, it might restrict you to do a certain thing. It forces you to take part in the committees as opposed to sitting and voting in a binary manner. So it would increase how active our Congress is. But that being said, it does not give you guys any more authority legislatively or otherwise that you already have. Does that answer your question?
Yes.
Okay.
I had another question and then I forgot it.
We have a couple more minutes, don't worry.
So that was with committees. Are members of Congress limited to one specific one for the year? Or for this set term?
Sorry.
Give me a second.
Okay, so if you're asking about the specific structure of it, I'm not sure we're gonna build the structure of committees later with the new Congress. This is just to get the ball rolling so that it's settled that there will be committees.
Understood.
Yeah, okay. So the specifics of it, you guys can debate that. I'm leaving that one up to you guys as well, just so you guys can learn to govern internal operations as well. So it's in essence a little sandbox, but it does have ramifications as well. So don't screw this up. Ani, you have a question? Or
Mr. President.
Huh?
Thank you for your faith, Mr. President.
No, I have every confidence in you and Adam and Nana and Ani and Kai, but I know there are members of Congress who aren't investing themselves as much as they could, and that's what we're here to do. Kai,
I was
yeah?
sarcastic. It's
Did you say
okay.
okay?
No, I'm telling you that I was being sarcastic.
Oh, yeah, no.
Sorry. Anyhow.
Okay. So, our caucusing is going to finish in 1 or so minutes. Has everybody read the bill? Okay, Kai's read it. Finn's read it. Ani's read it. Adam is there.
Yeah, I have. I just have to switch 6 tabs to unmute on Zoom.
Okay, yeah, Ani. You can talk, Ani.
Okay, I just wanted to say really quickly, I don't know if you've noticed, but it still says President Andre Dionysian at the bottom.
Does it? Oh. Well, that's embarrassing. That's really bad. It's because I copied... Does it? Oh, sorry. I copied a bill, so that's there. Hang on, where's... This is the first time I've ever done this. I'm going to sign a bill. Oh, Ani, you know
I just
what?
want to let you know the bill looks really stupid on mobile.
You look stupid on mobile. I'm sorry. I'll take that back, Adam. And yeah. I think that's just docs. Docs look really awkward on mobile. It's a weird interface. Finn, you okay? You look gobsmacked. Is it something in the bill?
No, I'm good. Jokes aside, I'm good. Jokes not aside. I'm just laughing at this session
Okay.
because
No, yeah. Once Ms. Cashman leaves, we're high
we should
schoolers.
be monitoring what we say as this is being publicly live streamed.
No, I know.
FYI,
Sorry.
just FYI. Although you know, I'm just
No, yeah,
bringing.
I kept this in mind. I know, but I'm not gonna pretend to be some uptight guy. I might be some uptight guy sometimes, but when we're having a session and we're in caucusing, I'm gonna take advantage of that opportunity to talk to you guys frankly. And I think it's the best way we can communicate, especially since we are not a massive bureaucracy, and we want to keep that space between us as small as possible. And so, with that said, I think our caucusing is expired, and if it hasn't, I am doing it. It has. Don't worry. So I will now reinstate the rules, and if the Vice President would like to motion to put HB 012 to a vote, that is her prerogative.
Let me get the words right. I motion to put HB 012 to motion. All right.
To a vote.
To a vote.
Seeing as the President, as the Chair, can recognize what it is the Vice President was trying to convey, the HB 012 is now on the floor for a vote. We'll take a, oh, I'm sorry, we got to vote because we got to vote on that motion on its own. Representative Tamani, how do you vote on introducing the bill for a vote?
Aye.
Aye. Nazarian?
Aye.
Singh?
Aye.
Kroll?
Aye.
Okay. Can we have Representative Sarian give us her vote on this bill remotely? Because to have a quorum, we're going to need 5 out of 8. Right now, we only have 4. And so I wasn't counting on her leaving halfway because I forgot that she had something to go do. So we're going to need her in order for this to be passed. Yeah, sorry, Kai, what?
Yeah, it sounds good. Doesn't matter to me.
Sorry, what happened?
No, you were talking about having somebody vote remotely.
Oh yeah, no, RP.
Oh yeah, that's fine. That should be okay.
Yeah, no, I'm asking if somebody can reach out to her. Oni?
Yeah, I can text her. Hold on.
Okay, thanks, guy. Actually, I'm gonna restore order now because we still have the rules instated.
If I made faces at the camera, would everyone be able to see it? Sorry, that's off topic. I'm gonna know that.
Sorry. Representative Kroll, you're out of order. Point of inquiry, Finn, what happened?
I was asking something that was off topic and out of order, and my brain didn't tell me to not do it, so I did it.
Okay.
Irrelevant is what happened.
It's fine. Kai, do you have, did you establish, did you talk to RP?
Yeah, point of. And I've already.
That's not me, right?
Sent her a message. She has not responded yet. Oh my god, everybody's yelling. I apologize. But yeah, she's not responding. No, that's everybody yelling right now. I apologize. But she didn't say anything back.
Okay. Point of inquiry, Ani, what happened? I cut out.
I don't know what happened. I just heard Kai cutting out.
Oh yeah. Point of information, Kai. That's what happened. So I didn't know why Ani was laughing, but I couldn't hear a word you said. All right. Let the record reflect that Representative Singh said "Lamafao, sorry." I'm sure Holden's gonna include that. Holden. Okay. Kai, so let us know when you get something back from from Representative Sarian. Oh no, are they leaving? No? Okay.
No, they are not leaving.
It's just an expression.
Yeah.
I'd like to, hey, order. I'd like to, Representative Tamani, I just saw your message. That looks hilarious. So Adam sent me a screenshot of the bill on mobile, and it's just like one line of text going vertically down with one letter in each space, and it's pretty funny. We're pinning that. Okay. Representative Singh, point of inquiry, are you back?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay.
Yes, we can.
As I was saying, RB has not responded yet, but I have DM'd her.
Understood.
Mhm.
The chair will restore order because you guys are insane. But can somebody DM RP personally on her Instagram? That might be easy for her to find. Okay, thanks.
I'll do it.
Yep.
I can also text her.
Okay.
Really
And so,
annoying her.
I'm gonna suspend the rules one more time because I find it very difficult for us to. Yeah, Kai's all over the place. Very difficult for us to maintain the professionalism we need to conduct a normal Congress when we're just sitting here waiting for RP. We're teens. Something's gonna happen. We're gonna start laughing, goofing off, and so I'm gonna motion with unanimous consent to suspend the rules as of now. And so I need a second, and then that's it. Okay, got it from Kai. I suspend the rules. Adam, can you speak periodically so I know that you're there?
Why?
So, how's everyone doing today?
Okay. Well, it was fine until we have to wait for one other representative to have a quorum, but you know what's annoying?
Do I want to know what's annoying?
Yeah. Well,
Okay.
you do.
Do I feel like you're gonna tell me anyway? Even if I didn't want to
Well, right. It's a turn of phrase, Finn. Anyways,
Sorry.
Listen. I could have been able to vote, but I can't, and it's just hitting me because I don't hear my name read out anymore.
I'm so sorry. You're the president of the BSA.
Well, right,
Like-
but I don't get to vote
Yeah,
anymore.
that stings.
I apologize on behalf of the rest of the world.
On the off chance that we have a tie, which I hope happens, I swear to God, you guys better argue so Nana can get a breaking vote.
Well, no, what's going to happen is that we're going to have the breaking vote happen at the very last meeting of this year, as it did last year, because we had a whole year, last Congress, to have a tiebreaker vote. But we didn't have it until we intentionally orchestrated it, or did our best to do so, at the last session of the last Congress, excluding this one.
Oh, yeah. So, point of information. What am I doing? Rules suspended. Okay, so for everybody who doesn't know, Tony, the last vice president, wanted to have a tie-breaking vote, and in the Congress. He didn't get to do that until the very end. So the Congress tried orchestrating. This is when I was chairing the last session. Tried orchestrating a tied vote on some random thing, and it was Tony's job to break it. All the Congress had to do, mind you, was alternate in their votes of aye, nay, or abstentions based on the odd numbers we had. And so I'm assuming Congress can do basic arithmetic. But,
Oh, Jeffrey, because I just read through the highlights of what he said the last time. We've all taken basic algebra, right?
yeah, no. So we had to go back multiple times because the Congress couldn't add. And so that was a funny... Adam, what are you doing?
What do you mean?
Okay, Adam.
What did I do?
Nothing. No. I mean... See... I know Adam personally, and what's funny is I know this is exactly the kind of thing he'd do. But it's strange to see it in this setting in the Congress. but I mean, he seems to be entertaining any viewers. That being said, Kai, what's the status on RP?
Nothing.
Should we call her?
Okay, so here's what we're gonna do. I know 4 out of 8 isn't a quorum. I think. At any rate, we're gonna vote on this in case it is, and in case we get, in case by the time we finish the entire process we get a remote vote from RP. So I'm gonna put this up to a vote. If every representative has seen it, I'm gonna reinstate the rules, and then we can't goof around anymore. Ready? Got it?
Understood.
Understood. Gotcha. Okay. I'm going to reinstate the. I will motion to reinstate the rules with unanimous consent. So I'm going to need a second.
Second.
The rules have been reinstated. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for waiting. At this time, I'm going to have my vice president place HB012 to a vote. The chair recognizes Vice President Bambi for a duration of 1 minute.
I don't know what to say.
Point of information, Nana, you're supposed to say, I motion to introduce HB012 with unanimous consent. Sorry, I motion to put HB012 to a vote. You know what? Just...
I motion to put HB012 to a vote.
With unanimous consent.
With unanimous consent.
Okay. I'm going to recognize my vice president for a duration of 20 seconds to put a bill to a vote.
I motion to put HB012 to a vote with unanimous consent.
There's a motion to put HB012 to a vote. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second from Representative Kroll. We will now vote on HB012, the Congressional Involvement Act. We will use a roll call system to vote. I'm going to start with Representative Timani.
Aye.
Timani votes aye. Representative Nazarian.
Aye.
Nazarian votes aye. Representative Kroll.
Aye.
Representative Kroll votes aye. Representative Singh.
Aye.
Representative Singh votes aye. If we have a quorum, which is very unlikely, HB012 passes in what is now officially an illegitimate Congress. Because
Ouch.
no, because not because of you guys, because we only have 4 people, so we can't actually pass this. We haven't met the threshold of our legislative proportion. Let's call it. Yeah.
Point of information: Nicolette is currently in the waiting room.
Nicolette, if you're watching this, thank you, Representative Singh. This is a meeting only for Congress, and so it's open to the public via live stream on YouTube. But the Zoom meeting itself is only with me, Cashman, my vice president, and Congress. So, yeah, okay. It is 6:18 p.m. I will open the floor to comment or motion from any members of Congress. Representative Kroll, you recognized by the chair for 2 minutes.
I motion to adjourn this meeting.
Representative Kroll is supposed to adjourn the meeting. Does he have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ani. Thank you, Representative Nazarian. With Representative Kroll's motion, we will now vote on whether or not to adjourn this meeting. Sorry, Finn. He's upset, yeah. Okay. With a roll call vote, Representative Finn, Representative Kroll. Oh my god. Finn Kroll. Representative Finn. Representative Kroll! Okay. I call you Finn because we talk. We talk outside these sessions. I'm not used to calling you Representative Kroll. Well, that's not true, I am. Okay. I'll call everybody by the first names if it makes you any happier. Oh no. He left. Okay, he's back. Representative Kroll, how do you vote?
Aye.
He votes aye to adjourn the meeting. Representative Timani, how do you vote?
Aye.
He votes aye to adjourn the meeting. Representative Singh, how do you vote?
Aye.
They vote aye to adjourn the meeting. Representative Nazarian, how do you vote?
Aye.
Representative Nazarian votes aye. And with that, at 6:20 p.m., I'm going to adjourn this emergency session meeting on July 30th of the Burbank Student Alliance Congress. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. One quick thing. I just had an epiphany as we were counting the votes. You know the quorum thing we discussed? So I don't know if this falls under the jurisdiction of that, but I had a thought that maybe we can't adjourn the session until we have a quorum of Congress to let us go. But that's not how it works. It's not legislation. It's just controlling the body. But that's fine. So we have concluded the session, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining us if you're on the live. We asked some questions to the Director of Student Services of the BUSD, Stacey Cashman, on the reopening plans. If you have any more questions, you can go and direct those to our Instagram at Burbank Students, and we'll get back to you as soon as we can. If there's anything we can do for you, any issue you want to bring to our attention, go through that avenue as well. Or if you have any other questions for Ms. Cashman, the district, or otherwise on the reopening plans, we'll get you answers on those as well. So thank you everybody for joining.